So, hello, good morning. I am back from California and I'm back to my little pink agate slice basket, and I am going to show you a stitch that I am calling the Buttonholed Faggoting Stitch or Buttonholed Basic Foundation. And if you know how to create the faggoting stitch, you won't have to spend a lot of time practicing this. So this is what it will look like when we are done. And I have done another video on it, but I thought I would do one with a few more stitches. So if you've been watching my videos, you'll see that I have created the high bar stitch down here. I've used a wire in the bottom of this basket to solidify it a little bit and strengthen it. I worked on this netting stitch. However, I can't do a video on it because I really can't describe how it's done. It's a little bit difficult, but I will be doing a few more videos in the open cavities. So today we're going to work on the buttonholed faggoting stitch, which looks like this. You will have two lines going up instead of one as a regular faggoting stitch has, and you'll have a little buttonhole knot around the top of each crossover. So to start off, I will create just a little chain stitch because you don't have a lot of room in here to do the faggoting stitch. You could just leave it plain, but I thought this little chain stitch looked fine and I just kind of created that. So let's get started. So if you watch my previous videos, you will see how I tie off, how I start my threads and tie them off. I just put a little knot here and then pull it through and hide it. So I usually work from left to right when I'm working on my faggoting stitches. It just works out for me that way best. So you could do it whatever way you're comfortable with. And I am trying to get as close as I possibly can. And I've got light shining right on here and white paper behind so you could see what I'm doing. So I've pulled my thread through. Now I'm just going to go to the top here and pick up a stitch. So usually when you're doing the faggoting stitch, you want some stitches on top and bottom that will make it easily to tie off to. So I know I have enough stitches here. So for the faggoting stitch, I've gone up diagonally and just picked up a stitch. I'll show you from the back here. I've got that little stitch right in there. And then you want to come from back to front and circle around that stitch that you've created. And that kind of ties it together. Now in here, you're not going to see much because, again, the stitches are so close together, the two poles. However, so I went from the top, now I'm going to go from the bottom, and I usually create my stitches about 1/4 of an inch apart. That's just my habit. You could do whatever you like for whatever look you want. So this is going to look like a little chain stitch. So then diagonally across, pick up your stitch, come from back to front, and you get that little twist. This is going to be really hard to see because it's just a small cavity. So again, pick up a stitch about 1/4 of an inch away from the top. So we go top to bottom, come from back to front and twist. And it creates this little chain in that smaller cavity. Okay, so we went to the top. Now I am going to go to this last stitch over here. Hopefully you could see that with my big hands in the way. I'm going to grab that stitch. Now we end up in the back, so I'm coming back to front. See where the needle's coming out? Come around that stitch and twist it. Now we're going to go up to the top, grab a stitch, go across diagonally. See how that creates just a little chain pattern in there? Hopefully you could see it with the light. Then you come from back to front. And if you don't know how to do the faggoting stitch, I have other videos on it, and I will go ahead and tag those here. But right now we are just setting up for the buttonhole faggoting stitch. We just have to go all the way across. I'm just coming back around. It's making a little chain stitch. Now I will go diagonally here. So this is the Indian wrap stitch above, where you have several long stitches, several short stitches, and then one long stitch. So come back to front after you've attached. Then you are going to come diagonally down about 1/4 of an inch for me, or you can do a larger opening. Now also remember that you can always attach beads as you're doing this, so that you'll have beads in this cavity here. You can always add a bead and continue the same pattern. So just make sure to always get your twist in there. So now I've attached to the bottom. I'm going to come up here diagonally, making sure I've picked up a thread. And I'm hoping this is all on camera. So see, we've got our little twist in there, and we're just filling in this cavity. Then I will go right about here, pick up another thread diagonally, come around from the back, make sure you get that twist in there, because that's what creates that beautiful little pattern. Okay, I will do one more here, about 1/4 of an inch across. Seems I'm always doing 1/4 of an inch for something. Drilling holes, everything I do is about 1/4 of an inch, it seems like. Back to front, get the little twist in, come down diagonally, attach your thread where you feel it is appropriate. So if I was just going to create the faggoting stitch, here's back to front. If I was just going to do the faggoting stitch, and that's what we normally do to fill in these cavities, I just continue along. And if I wanted to add one big bead here or smaller beads all along, you could do that. But we are just creating the faggoting stitch, not adding anything exciting, because we are going to go back and stitch over the top of this, and we are going to create a buttonhole faggoting stitch. Okay, I will create one more, about 1/4 of an inch where you feel is appropriate. Attach it diagonally. Come from back to front. Gosh, I'm grand doggy sitting and he's snoring over there. I'm not sure if you can hear him. Okay, see how that is lining up? Again, here's one more. About 1/4 of an inch diagonally, back to front. Now that makes a really beautiful faggoting stitch foundation right there. And you can leave it at that, add beads, whatever you like. Okay, I will attach right here, about 1/4 of an inch. So you go top to bottom, then you come from the back, twist, and just keep going. So I'm just gauging right about there. I just kind of eyeball it. I don't measure. I know what 1/4 of an inch looks like. So here we go. There's your faggoting stitch. I will attach it up here. I want to make sure I get enough thread in there. Okay. And I will put a twist again. And then I will work my thread over to this side and create the same pattern, the same faggoting stitch on this side. Okay, when I come back, we'll work on the buttonholed faggoting stitch. So today we are working on the buttonholed faggoting stitch. This is what it looks like when it's completed. You'll see it's the basic faggoting stitch, and then you go back over it and you create a second line and then a buttonhole knot throughout. So the first part of this video is showing you how to create the basic faggoting foundation. And this is the second part. So for those of you that know how to complete the faggoting stitch, you can just do that on your own and then pick up here. So I completed the faggoting stitch all the way across my cavity here. And what we're trying to do is create this double stitch here, double line stitch, and then create a little buttonhole stitch. And it creates this beautiful little pattern. Hope you could see that up close. It's kind of cool. It's not my favorite, but it's kind of cool and different. I really like this high bar better. But at any rate, I am going to show you how to do it. And I think it looks good in this basket because this is a practice basket. And I'm doing a lot of different stitches in here. So I've worked my way over here and started doing this buttonholed faggoting stitch. Here you can't see the pattern as well because it's such a small opening. But I started out the same way I always do, with a little knot right there, and then worked my thread through and started working on my pattern. So to complete the buttonholed faggoting stitch, you really just have to follow the same lines, and I just place my thread along there and hold it. Come up from the opposite side because you need to go down through the loop that you create here. I'm going to hold it so that you can create a knot and hold that in place. So you basically follow the same pattern of your previous stitch and then create your knot or buttonhole stitch. So now I am going up. You want to put your buttonhole stitches up here so it holds better. And it's basically just like a knot, a knotted stitch, or the buttonhole, they're calling it. So I got this stitch out of a book that was given to me, or a pamphlet by my teacher. And I'm just kind of going through and trying all the different stitches. So here I will go ahead and come on this side because I want to make sure that I have the little loop in there. I hope you could see that. I'm going to try to get up closer. So when you're doing a buttonhole, you just need to hold the little loop so you can go back through it. And some people come from top to bottom or bottom to top. You just do whichever way is most comfortable for you. So see, it gives it kind of a cool little look. I don't know, I guess in certain circumstances, this would be perfect. And you can go ahead and add beads if you want. It might be a little busy. If you have a bigger cavity, it'd probably work better. So see how I'm holding the loop there? Just to make sure I have a loop to go through so I can create that knot. And then you have mirrored images of this thread. So I put it on either side that it is going to create the nice pattern and hold the thread side by side. So there's my little buttonhole. I had to kind of make it happen there. It was in the back. Now here, I guess I'll go ahead and do one more, and then I'll work my way to the other side. Now this is going to be a little difficult because there's not really a knot up there, but we'll kind of fake it here. I'll just fake it and go to the other side. Oh, that looks okay. Okay, so we ended up with double stitches. I hope you could see that up close. I'll take a picture, but you could see buttonhole here, stitch, knot, whatever you want to call it, and then 2 mirroring threads there. Okay. And I'll work my needle through off camera and show you a few more of those. This is what it looks like from the other side. It's cute. It's just a little different. I'm not used to it, I guess. Okay, I will work my needle through and show you a few more stitches. Okay, so I made it to the other side and I created a few more buttonhole stitches. Kind of like straightening them out. So I worked my way to the other side and created a few more of the Buttonholed Faggoting Stitch. So let me just show you a couple more times. So I'm holding my thread where I want it to be, and then I'm coming, because my thread's on the back, so I'm coming from the back. As you work with it, you'll kind of get your own little pattern. Hold your little loop so you can create the buttonhole above where your little twist is from the faggoting stitch, and pull it tight. So I had to tighten these up because these were moving around a little bit, but you get the basic idea. So see, you have the 2 threads, but go around, make your buttonhole stitch here, come up to the next one. Just kind of mirror image the previous faggoting stitch that you did, and creating the knot, the buttonhole knot up above where the little twist is. So again, I'm going to mirror down here. I'm going to come from the opposite side because I have to make that little buttonhole. I have to leave the little hole and then go back down in it and secure it up by where your little twist is. Especially on this is such a smaller cavity. You could do it below, I guess, but the pictures that I've looked at shows it right up by the faggoting stitch. But you get this cool little double line here. Okay, so I'll do one more because I think it's getting really small in here. I don't think I'll be able to do another one. And then go right back down through your little hole that you've created. And snug it up. Create your little knot. Got a little hair in there. I've got dog hair all over because I'm granddoggy sitting still. There we go. And I think I could fit one more in here. So come from the opposite side because you have to create that knot. There's the little hole to go down in. And then secure it up by where you did that faggoting stitch. So it's kind of a cool look. I think it would look better in a larger cavity. Oh, It's not my favorite, but it's fun to learn and always do something different. So I am going to do one more teeny one because I'm getting close to the end here, and I'm just going to have to chain stitch or hide my thread down in there. Little hole, go over the top, create your knot, secure it down. And then you get that double look. So I will go ahead and do these little areas in here just so it looks similar. So I could have taken my thread down and come through here and did a double here. That might have looked better, but I didn't. I came right across here, came down here, started the double lines there. I did have to go back and do this a little bit because it wasn't as snug as this side. So I really had to work with it a little bit. But you get the general idea. I'll put a few more knots in here and then just work my thread through. And then on these other open cavities, I'm not sure what I'm going to do. I think I might try the double faggoting foundation, which you just do 2 faggot stitches in the same hole. So we'll see what happens next. But there you go. This is what it looks like from the other side. And easy description is faggoting stitch, following along the lines of the faggoting stitch, creating a buttonhole or little knot up by each of the crossovers or the twists at the top. Okay, and you could certainly add beads in there if you wanted. It might look a little busy, but depending on your project, it could work just fine. So that's what it looks like. This is what the basket is beginning to look like. 2 more cavities, and I am done with this one. I might put a dark pink on the last row up here. We'll see what happens next. Thanks for watching. I hope this helps. And I hope that you were able to learn the buttonholed faggoting stitch. See you next time.